So that is the first game of the round of the last 16 done. And what a fascinating game it was. I mean, the Stoop was sold out. Quins were looking pretty good in terms of team. They decided to put both Joes on the bench. So Marler and Launchbury were on the replacement bench. Glasgow were fully loaded, probably except for Hugh Jones. And it really was a case of game on. And it was Glasgow who kind of fired first. They went over for a really nice try within about the second minute. Scott Cummings going over after some really nice play. You know, sort of they dragged Quins left and right and had some nice straight hard running as well and got themselves into a nice deserved lead. And then probably for the next 20 minutes or so, it was all Quins. But Quins just couldn't get it over the line. They were kind of causing themselves problems. They were having problems with their line out. Don Brandt managed to tackle himself when he looked set to be putting somebody away. He just sort of fell over. Murley went into the corner, but kind of didn't get downward pressure on the ball. And things were just kind of moving away from Quins. And they were choosing to go for lineouts rather than kickable penalties. And I thought, wow, this could be Glasgow's evening. I had predicted Glasgow would win the game prior to the start, but I thought this is it. This is kind of all shaping up, looking good for Glasgow. But then it started to happen. As ever, it's Marcus Smith who pulls all the strings for Quins. And it was a little bit of magic from him. Nice cross-field kick, put Esterhazen in on the right-hand corner. And then things went a little bit messy for 5 or 10 minutes. Scores tied. I guess people were starting to get a little bit anxious. But then Quins started to kind of get their game going. I think Tua Pilotu, who looked an absolute threat with ball in hand, was sin-bin for offside. And off the resulting scrum that Quins chose to have, Smith went over, having cut back in under the posts, and all of a sudden they're 14-7 in front. Looks like the half is done. But then after the clock's read, Tyrone Green is tackled off the ball, having kicked it through. Another penalty to Quins. Again, they kick for the corner. And this time it kind of comes good for them. And again, they score another try. So, half-time, 21-7 to Quins. Not sure if they deserved that lead or not, but hey, they took it. They were there. And it looked like an absolute mountain to climb for Glasgow in the second half. And I guess Franco Smith must have had some pretty strong words with his team, because in that second half, they came out firing. First thing you notice is they cut out the discipline problems. So having conceded something like 11 or 12 pens in the first half, they kind of got that right back under control. And they started to really make some headway in the game. And much of that headway came from Quins now deciding they wanted to give away a load of penalties. So the kind of discipline swapped, Glasgow, really poor first half. Quins starting to be poor in the second half. And their line out just fell to pieces. And so off the back of that, Glasgow got themselves a really well-worked try. It was off a line-out maul, but they held the ball in really well. It was called, use the ball, but they kept it in there. And they went through, and I think it was Matthews went over, the hooker, to bring it back to 21-14. And then not long after that, again, some lovely attacking play from Glasgow. They got the ball wide. Some of their passing was brilliant. Some of their hands were brilliant. Other times it was a little bit all over the place. But this time there was a mixture. There was a bit of a loose pass. They recovered it, got it wide. And this time Horn went over. There's 2-1 in the corner. They fed the ball back inside. And all of a sudden it's 21-all. And it had real shades of what happened last weekend for Harlequins, against Bath, where they take a lead and it just disappears. Then Glasgow struck and took the lead via a penalty. I think it's one of the few times either side decided to actually kick a kickable penalty, and they got their noses in front, 24-21. And then it looked like it was going to be Glasgow's day, because it wasn't long after that. Marler was sin-binned for a high shot. Shoulder to head. I thought it was a little bit lucky to be sin-binned. I think they talked about the second tackler change the dynamic. I wasn't really seeing that, but hey, it was a sin-bin. Off he went, and I thought this is Glasgow's game. But it wasn't to be. They put on 24 phases against 14 men. They looked quite threatening at times. Again, Tua Pilotu, lovely with ball in hands, a real threat, breaking through tackles. But yeah, Quins, fair play to them. They soaked up about 24 phases, didn't concede, got the ball up the other end. All of a sudden, Marler's back on. A few minutes later, they are winning a scrum penalty. I think it was probably the other side. I don't think it was Marla's side. I thought it was the other side that got the penalty. They kick for the line out. They actually managed to secure the line out ball. I think they had 2 line out penalties there. They secured the ball both times. And this time it was Riley who got over. The Glasgow defence sort of disintegrated a little bit. And with 4 minutes to go, it's 26, 24. Marcus Smith is out wide. Not a desperately difficult conversion, but probably given the circumstances, difficult enough. But he slots it over and he makes it more than a 3-point game. Now, again, you're thinking, right, Quinn, surely have got this now. But immediately from the restart, they cough up the ball. I think there was no lifter for Launchbury. It kind of went over his head. I think it hit either Don Brent or Esther Hazen behind him. And all of a sudden, Glasgow are there with a scrum, probably about 30 yards out, 3-4 minutes to play. And they tried. They did try. They went through another 20-odd phases. This time, the defence was really, really stubborn from Quins. They just kept pushing them back. And I think they probably went back about 5 or 10 metres across those 20 phases. And eventually, Duncan Weir tried a cross-field kick to the advancing winger. Ball went out. Game done. Quins win. Fascinating match. Really enjoyed it. Not probably the top quality that we'll see this weekend, but it was a really competitive match. I think my conclusions from it really was both teams had a good chance to win that game and both teams kind of blew it, really. And I think, if they were to reflect on it, I think they'd be saying, let's kick some penalties. Let's not always be going for the corners. Let's get that scoreboard moving. Because had Glasgow kicked some of their kickable stuff, they could have been into a 6-point lead with about 15 minutes to go. They didn't. Quins in the first half didn't kick a lot of stuff. A game that both sides could have won. Quins came through. Congratulations for them. They've got a potentially a tough ask. It's going to be Bordeaux or Saracens in the quarterfinal. I suspect it will be Bordeaux. They'll be travelling there, which I think will be too big a ask for them. But yeah, well done. They should enjoy it tonight. I think that's the first competitive knockout game they've won in the Champions Cup. So that's kudos to them. But yeah, love to know what you thought of the game. Did you enjoy it? Did you think Glasgow should have won it? Did you think Quins were worthy winners? Do you think that was a red card for Marla, or do you think the yellow card was right? Please do let me know. Love to hear your thoughts. Whilst you're there, give us a like and a subscribe. Any support you can give the channel will be much appreciated. And enjoy the rest of the games this weekend.